The last time you got sick, you probably didn't think much about it, because modern medicine quietly solves problems that once terrified entire generations. You visit a doctor, take a prescription, rest for a few days, and expect your body to recover. Hospitals, pharmacies, antibiotics, and emergency rooms surround you so completely that it is easy to forget they are recent inventions. Now imagine a world where none of those things exist, and nobody understands what causes disease. You accidentally cut your hand while preparing food, the wound becomes infected, and there is no doctor to call. A fever begins rising, the pain becomes worse each day, and nobody can explain what is happening inside your body. For most people today, that situation sounds like the beginning of a disaster. For almost all of human history, it was simply normal life. Every human being who lived before modern medicine faced the constant possibility that a minor injury could become life-threatening. Your ancestors survived broken bones, dangerous infections, severe burns, and mysterious illnesses for thousands of generations. At first glance, that sounds impossible, because even modern people fear infections and disease. Most people imagine prehistoric life as a brutal world, where the sick were abandoned and the injured quickly died. The archaeological evidence tells a very different story. Ancient skeletons reveal people who survived severe injuries, permanent disabilities, and illnesses that should have ended their lives. Some individuals lived for years after suffering damage that would have made hunting and travel extremely difficult. Those discoveries create a question that completely changes how we think about the ancient world. How did people survive when they could no longer take care of themselves? The answer begins inside a cave in northern Iraq that preserved one of the most important clues in human history. Archaeologists discovered the remains of a Neanderthal, whose body showed evidence of multiple serious injuries. His arm had been badly damaged, his hearing was likely impaired, and his skeleton revealed a lifetime of physical trauma. Yet he survived for years after those injuries occurred, something that should have been almost impossible alone. A person with those limitations would have struggled to hunt, gather food, and protect himself from danger. The most reasonable explanation is that other members of his community helped keep him alive. Someone shared food when he could not hunt for himself. Someone protected him when he was vulnerable. Someone decided that his life still had value despite his injuries. That simple decision may represent one of humanity's greatest strengths. For a long time, scientists assumed prehistoric survival depended almost entirely on physical strength. The strong survived while the weak disappeared from the population. The evidence from sites like Shanidar suggests reality was far more complicated. Ancient humans often invested resources in people who could no longer contribute physically in the same way. That behavior may have given humans an advantage that no predator could match. An injured hunter still remembered migration routes learned over decades of experience. An elderly gatherer still knew where food could be found during difficult seasons. A disabled individual still carried knowledge that could benefit the entire group. By protecting people, communities protected information. Knowledge became one of humanity's most valuable survival tools. Unlike strength, knowledge can be shared across an entire group. Unlike speed, knowledge can survive long after an injury occurs. Unlike physical power, knowledge grows when it is passed from one generation to the next. This may be one reason humans succeeded in environments that should have overwhelmed them. They survived not as isolated individuals, but as communities, built around cooperation. If ancient humans cared for the injured, the next question becomes even more interesting. How did they actually treat illness when they had no medical science to guide them? Compassion can provide support, but compassion alone cannot reduce pain or stop infections. Part of the answer may have been hidden in the natural world surrounding them every day. Your ancestors spent their lives carefully observing animals, plants, weather patterns, and the effects of different foods. Over thousands of generations, they noticed that certain plants appeared to help with specific problems. Some reduced pain, some eased discomfort, and others seemed useful when people became sick. Nobody understood chemistry, biology, or bacteria. People only understood results. If a treatment repeatedly helped someone recover, it was remembered and repeated. If a treatment consistently made things worse, it was avoided. This process created a primitive form of medicine, based entirely on observation. Every illness became an experiment. Every recovery became evidence. Every failure became a lesson for future generations. Much of this knowledge was never written down because writing itself had not yet been invented. Instead, it moved through stories, memory, and direct teaching between older and younger members of the community. A useful remedy could survive for centuries without ever appearing in a book. That makes ancient medicine difficult for archaeologists to study, because knowledge rarely fossilizes. A stone tool can survive underground for thousands of years, but a conversation disappears almost immediately. Even so, researchers continue uncovering clues that suggest ancient people understood more than we once believed. Studies of Neanderthal remains have revealed evidence that some individuals consumed plants with little nutritional value. At first, this discovery confused researchers because the plants provided almost no energy. One possible explanation is that they were consumed for medicinal purposes rather than food. The evidence remains debated, but the possibility is fascinating. It suggests that ancient humans may have experimented with treatments long before recorded history began. Some of the strongest evidence for prehistoric medical knowledge comes from a place most people never expect. Human teeth provide a surprisingly detailed record of ancient attempts to relieve pain and treat disease. Tooth infections can be extremely dangerous because bacteria can spread through the body. Without treatment, a damaged tooth can become a serious threat to survival. That is why archaeologists were stunned by discoveries made at an ancient site called Mehrgar. Researchers found human teeth that had been deliberately drilled nearly 9,000 years ago. The tiny holes were too precise to be accidents, and clearly resulted from intentional treatment. Someone was attempting to reduce pain or remove decay long before modern dentistry existed. The procedure was probably uncomfortable and possibly terrifying, yet people accepted that risk because untreated dental infections could be even worse. The goal was not comfort but survival. That basic principle remains central to medicine even today. Ancient skulls reveal evidence of an even more surprising procedure known as trepanation. Trepanation involves cutting, scraping, or drilling an opening into the skull. At first glance, it sounds impossible that anyone could survive such a procedure. Yet archaeologists have discovered many skulls showing signs of healing around the openings. That healing proves the individuals survived after the operation was completed. Some lived for years afterward. Nobody knows exactly why every trepanation was performed. Some may have treated head injuries, while others may have relieved pressure after trauma. Certain procedures may even have been connected to spiritual beliefs. The reasons remain uncertain, but the survival evidence is undeniable. Ancient humans were performing complex procedures thousands of years before hospitals existed. That required skill, experience, and an enormous amount of trust. Imagine placing your life in someone else's hands, without anesthesia, medical imaging, or sterile equipment. You would only do that if previous experience suggested the treatment could help. Successful techniques survived because communities remembered them. Failed techniques disappeared because people learned from painful outcomes. The process was imperfect, but it gradually improved humanity's ability to survive illness and injury. Despite everything ancient people learned, medicine remained a constant battle against forces they could not see. A deep infection could still become fatal. A severe fever could still overwhelm the body. A difficult childbirth could still end in tragedy. Ancient healers understood symptoms, but had no understanding of microbes. Bacteria and viruses remained completely invisible to them. Even so, they discovered practices that increased the odds of survival. Cleaning wounds often helped reduce complications. Protecting injuries often improved healing. Rest, food, and water often gave the body a better chance to recover. Nobody understood why these practices worked. They only understood that they often did. Generation after generation observed patterns and slowly built practical knowledge. Communities that learned effective responses to illness often survived more successfully than those that did not. Support became one of the most powerful treatments available. When someone became sick, food could be shared, and physical demands could be reduced. Family members could provide care while others maintained the camp. Protection from weather, predators, and starvation allowed the body to focus on recovery. In many cases, community support may have been the difference between life and death. This is why the first hospital was not a building. The first hospital was a group of people working together to keep one another alive. The first nurses were family members who stayed beside the sick. The first caregivers were friends and relatives willing to share resources during difficult times. Long before healthcare became an institution, healing was a collective responsibility. Everyone contributed in whatever way they could. Someone gathered food while someone else watched over the injured. Someone cared for children while others helped the sick recover. Someone preserved knowledge and passed it to the next generation. Together, those actions created humanity's first healthcare system. It was not perfect, but it worked well enough to carry our species through hundreds of thousands of years. Eventually, small camps became villages. Villages became cities, and cities became civilizations. Medical knowledge slowly became more specialized as populations increased and societies became more complex. Knowledge that once lived only in memory began appearing in written records. Treatments could now survive beyond the lifetime of a single teacher. Ancient traditions gradually evolved into organized systems of medicine. Over time came physicians, hospitals, surgery, antibiotics, vaccines, and modern healthcare. Today, we benefit from thousands of years of accumulated observations, discoveries, successes, and failures. A hospital contains knowledge gathered across countless generations of human experience. Modern medicine can achieve things ancient humans could never have imagined possible. Broken bones can be repaired, infections can be treated, and diseases can be prevented. From one perspective, the difference between ancient and modern medicine feels enormous. From another perspective, something important has never changed. Every healthcare system still depends on people choosing to help other people. Technology can assist recovery, but care remains essential. Medicine can treat disease, but compassion still matters. Hospitals can save lives, but human support remains part of the healing process. The roots of modern healthcare do not begin in laboratories or universities. They begin around ancient campfires where communities refuse to abandon their weakest members. They begin with hunter-gatherers sharing food with someone too injured to hunt. They begin with families protecting vulnerable people during illness and recovery. For nearly 300,000 years, those simple actions helped our species survive. Long before doctors existed, humans were already healing each other. Long before hospitals existed, humans were already caring for the sick. Long before medicine became a profession, survival depended on cooperation. The tools changed, the science advanced, and the treatments improved. The foundation remained surprisingly simple throughout all of human history. One human being helping another survive. That may be the oldest medicine humanity has ever known. And even after everything we have learned, it may still be the most important.